Hello, Internet. Welcome. I am Ryan Ingram, and this is the Friday morning live stream where I'm going to answer all of the questions that you have about real estate investing, finances, and really anything else that might come up. So I'm going to go ahead and get all set up here. So get this, post your questions in the chat banner, and this disclaimer about this not being legal or professional advice. So I think one of the best things about real estate investing is the fact that there are just as many different ways to make money in real estate as there are people investing in real estate. And I have found that across all things financial and just like building wealth, as far as that goes, it's extraordinarily specific to your situation. So we might speak broadly in terms here and talk about some best practices or generic strategies, but you are an individual, you are unique, and you probably have some of your own tricks up your sleeve to help you be successful in investing. So definitely get some insight from someone that is very specific and kind of catered to you from a real professional, a CPA, an attorney. Those things are pretty important. I met with our attorney yesterday, and we talked for about 2 hours on all sorts of different things that we could build on, improve, and otherwise, implement to make sure that we continue to be successful. So that is all I've got. A quick update on our week. We closed on one property, very out of character, but on a Tuesday, just because that is what was most convenient to the seller. Generally, we do our best to only close on Fridays. So every Friday around 10, 11, sometimes 9 o'clock, we start closing on properties. Today, we only have one property lined up, which is okay. That takes it to two, and that's a good week, buying two houses. We came really close. This one that we're closing today was a real last minute thing. So it came together on Wednesday, and the lender was able to wire the funds over, and the sellers are going to come in today as well. So we had a great team meeting this past Monday. All of our people that have anything to do with us came in, and we went over processes pretty much from start to finish on how things should go. Because I heard a quote recently that really resonated with me, and that was a quote about building the plane while you're flying it. And I really feel like that's what we're doing. Now we're having tons of fun building this business and trying to figure out how all of this stuff works. But for the most part, we don't know what we're doing, and we have to constantly reassess where we're at, where we're headed, and how we do things. And one thing that the team and I have been saying to each other over and over recently is what got us here won't get us there. So I think that's really important. And just overall, as a company right now, we're reassessing all of our practices, procedures, and figuring out ways that we can improve to deliver, kind of a superior product to the marketplace, and to be like the best version of this business as we can be, because that's what it's all about. So on the YouTube channel and the little about page, I say that I think the meaning of life is being the best version of yourself for the benefit of everybody around you. And I think that kind of transcends to the business atmosphere as well. So it is kind of our duty to be the best of all possible business that we can be for the benefit of, the banks, the private lenders, and the residents that live in these properties. Even the contractors, that are doing the work. If we don't have our stuff together, it makes their life harder, and it makes it more difficult for them to, complete their job, which in turn impacts the quality of product that the residents get, which in turn, impacts the quality of product that the lenders and the banks get. So it's a full cycle that we have to be mindful of. So that team meeting was really good. That was on the property management side. We bought another business that we are doing some team meetings now on as well. When we bought that business, it was doing about $900,000 to $1 million gross per year. And here lately, for the past couple of months, we've done over 120 to 200 per month, really. So that's a lot of growth. We're trending in the right direction there. And I think, hey, having weekly team meetings is really powerful, just to get everybody on the same page, problem solve as necessary, and really just share life together. All of our meetings, we open up with some wins of the weeks, even some lows, if people want to share. And I think that does a really good job at kind of summarizing where you're at. And also this whole success thing, improving, being the best version of yourself. It's really all about just sharing a good life with other people. So I know that sounds a little bit cheesy, but that's where my heart's at. That's kind of the mood that I'm in and how I'm feeling. So there it is, out into the ether, into the World Wide Web. So last week, the live stream was titled something really fun, like 7 steps of getting started in real estate investing. Let me find out for sure what that wording was. 7 steps for getting started in real estate investing. And I didn't have time to go over those. I kind of lost track of where it was, but here they are today. So the 7 steps of getting started in real estate, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. But the first one I would say is you really need to assess your financial situation. So a lot of people that I speak with have aspirations of getting started in real estate investing, but they don't have any money of their own. Now, while it is extraordinarily common to get started in real estate without having any of your own money, there's also a lot of kind of like underlying symptoms as to how you have found yourself in a position where you do not have any money. And those are the things that you need to address. And, at the end of the day, even if you are a high income earning W 2 job holder, you still need to figure out ways to increase your income and lower your expenses. So your financial situation, you have to tighten it up. Real estate investing is one of the most capital intensive industries that I think you could be in, maybe next to manufacturing. So I think it is extraordinarily important to be sound with your personal finances, to have an abundance of reserves of capital, to get started and to be able to bail yourself out of pinches when you get in them. And it's also just going to be really prudent for you to start getting in the mindset of always looking for different ways to increase your income and lower your expenses. I think what I would shoot for is only live off of about 50% of your income. If you're able to save, invest, or otherwise deploy 50% of your income to make you additional funds, you're always going to be in a good spot. And I think limiting your consumption, your personal consumption, to 50% or less of your income is a really powerful position for you to be in, and it's really going to help set you up for long term. Now, this is number one because it is the most important, in my opinion, but it's also something that you constantly need to be evaluating and reassessing. So, you should never lose sight of that, as it is extraordinarily important, which is why it was at number one. And number two is assessing your personal network. Now, if you are starting out on a journey, if you want to really excel at something, then it is 100% easier to learn from the experiences of other people, learn from the mistakes of other people, and that is easiest when you surround yourself with like-minded people that have already achieved the thing it is that you're setting out to achieve for yourself. So one of the first things that I did when I was getting started in real estate investing was, I went out and I found other real estate investors. Now, generally, they're pretty easy to find. There's a lot of real estate investing network groups. Just like everything else in life, it's a real numbers game. You need to meet a lot of people. You're not going to click with everybody. You're not going to form the best of relationships with people. And there's always going to be people out there that are somehow trying to take advantage of you or don't have your best interest at heart. So you really need to sift through a lot of other people that have, the type of achievements that you're looking to have, And then find the people that you click best with, that you like the most, and become friends with them, forge relationships with them. And one exercise that I used to regularly do is go through my phone list and make sure that, the last 10 or 15 people that I spoke with were kind of trending in the direction that I wanted to go. And as inhumane as it may feel, as horrible as it is to think about, it is most certainly necessary for you to take a really hard look at your existing network and figure out who is currently in your last 10 or 15 person call history that doesn't need to be there. And you can do it tactfully. You don't need to say goodbye to this person forever, but realize if you have true aspirations of becoming a millionaire, having a portfolio of X number of properties, there are a lot of ways that you could easily prevent yourself from accomplishing that. And one of the quickest ways is to not always be in the right mindset, not always have people that are the right type of people around you. So the people and your brain really make the biggest difference. And you really have to protect your energy, your brain power, and figure out who is taking your energy and your brain power away for things that are never going to be productive. So I remember probably one of the most painful conversations that I had was a friend who I really appreciate. I really enjoy him. I would answer the phone and help him out with anything that I could. But I remember for a couple of months, we talked about his, like, just one issue that he was having for a really long time. I gave my advice all the ways that I knew how to give it. And, you can only have that conversation so many times before it came down to, hey, good luck. I've said about all I can say about this, and I just don't have the ability to talk about it anymore. So whenever you get past this, let's hang out. But until then, it's on you. And, those conversations are difficult, but necessary, especially when you have your eyes on a goal. The third thing that I think is really important is for you to do an immense amount of research. So there are all sorts of different avenues of real estate investing, and all of them are probably really good ways at making money. So kind of how I opened up this live stream, I said there are just as many different ways to make money in real estate investing as there are people investing in real estate. And that, I think, is really true. So figure out the types of real estate that are most appealing or have the most amount of interest to you, and really dive in deep on those. Research them, read all the literature that exists on those types of real estate investing, and then start taking action, start finding people that invest in that type of real estate, and bring them into your network. But I would say before you actually buy your first deal, you need to expose yourself to all the different avenues of real estate investing, or at least the ones that you think that you're interested in. And then take a really hard look as you're meeting people that invest in these different types of real estate. Take a hard look at their lifestyle, the problems that they are faced with on a daily basis, and then be realistic with yourself and figure out, are the problems that they're dealing with problems that you are interested in having? Because at the end of the day, everybody can calculate your return on investment as a percentage. But what is more important and very difficult to calculate is the kind of headache factor. So I know for a fact, the likelihood of us getting involved in multifamilies is pretty low, because I am not interested in dealing with the drama between units. Now, I imagine that when you have a 100, 200 unit apartment building, these types of problems go away a little bit or become less apparent. But around the area that I invest in, a lot of 4 units, 6 units, 8 units, one bad resident could cause everyone to want to move out. And we have experienced that a couple of times. And those are the types of problems that I'm just not interested in having. So subsequently, we spend the most amount of time, energy, and effort growing our portfolio of single family homes. So my interest level falls off drastically whenever I think about multifamily investing. And I honestly don't know enough about commercial real estate or enough people that are investing in commercial real estate to ever make that a reality as well. So right now, I am doing the Gary Keller, the one thing model, and we are focused extraordinarily heavily on one avenue of real estate investing. Now, we did some research on the front end in order to figure that out, like which one we wanted to have. And the first property that I purchased was actually a duplex. So that does not fall in the model. And that is a property that I can absolutely say I would not purchase again given the opportunity to do so. So I'll come back to that point. Now, the fourth thing that you should do is regularly attend real estate investing network meetings or associations or anything like that. As soon as you identify the type of real estate investing that you want to be involved in, figure out all the different networks, conferences, whatever is available to you, and figure out how to continue to educate yourself, build your network, and stay involved in that industry. I think adding these types of meetings or whatever else you want to call them, like to your regularly scheduled calendar activities is really important. Always keep it top of mind, especially if this is a new venture for you, and just having the spots on your calendar kind of forcing you to engage in the industry with other people in the industry, and giving you opportunity to build relationships with the people that have this thing that you set your goal on having is one of the most powerful things that you can do. And it will keep you accountable because it's on your schedule, and it is not what you normally do on a daily basis. So attend meetings, network, and get involved in the industry, which is the fifth one. And I think this is important. So I started an insurance agency, and the insurance agency that I built, the way that I built it when it was just me, was solely based around writing insurance for other people that invest in real estate. And through that, I was able to connect with a significant amount of real estate investors. I was able to figure out some of their issues, and I was actually able to provide some value, as many real estate investors struggle with the insurance side of real estate investing. So being both a real estate investor and also an insurance agent for real estate investors, I had some pretty good insight and created some pretty cool things, in my opinion, to help solve those issues. So that kind of expedited my networking, relationship building, and I was also able to add value to the people that I was looking to insight for, as I was learning from them and trying to figure out how to duplicate what they had already done. Because one of the cool things about real estate investing is that real estate has been around for such a long time. As long as people have needed a place to live, real estate investing has been a thing. So there's no need for you to get creative. You do not need to figure out new ways to do anything. You can just copy the models that have already been done. The whole idea of the fact that there's nothing new under the sun couldn't be more true inside the confines of real estate investing. If there is ever a problem that you have, there is somebody else that has already had that problem. And, the good news is, as it pertains to real estate investing, every single problem that you ever have can be solved with money. So that's a double-edged sword. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's very painful. So again, that's why number one is assess your finances and constantly be reassessing that. My brother was originally, when we first got started in real estate investing, he was a commercial HVAC fellow. He did that. And then as we were building our portfolio, we realized that one of the biggest issues, or one of our biggest blind spots, were getting the financing right on properties. So what he ended up doing was leaving his job as a commercial HVAC individual, and he got into the mortgage industry. And from there, he learned almost everything there is to know about residential mortgages and subsequently commercial. mortgages. So he worked on both sides of that. And now that has impacted our business model greatly, has given us a lot of relationships, and has given us a lot of clarity on how we need to build our business so that it is most lendable or bankable or viewed in favor by all the institutions that we're asking for capital from. And then after you do all of this, I would say you just need to start buying deals. I know a lot of people that have done all of the things that I have just said, and they get kind of paralyzed by the overwhelming amount of information, the fear of making a mistake, and just waiting for that perfect opportunity and the perfect deal to come along. And it's never going to happen under any circumstances. So I would say as soon as you feel like you are going to these networking meetings, you're reading these books, and everything just feels familiar, you need to start taking action. And you shouldn't take yourself seriously unless you're taking action. So you cannot sit around with this information, with the proper funds, with all this knowledge, and then not execute anything, right? When I got started in real estate investing, I met a couple of other people. Some of them, most of them, probably all of them were significantly smarter than I was. And I still keep in touch with a couple of them, and they have yet to buy their first deal. They've got more funds than I do. They're, for all intents and purposes, they're smarter than I am, but they've just never taken any action. And I would say all of this knowledge, all the networking that you could possibly do is extraordinarily useless. All the savings that you've been doing, the living off 50% of your income or less, it's all very useless if you never take any action. So there's going to be a point in your journey where the only thing that's left to do is just start taking action. Now, obviously, you don't want to do that too soon, because you're able to circumvent a serious number of mistakes and issues by educating yourself properly, surrounding yourself with the right network. You don't need to go out there and just start, buying properties and making mistake after mistake. That's the most expensive way you could possibly learn. However, once you get very well acquainted with successful people that are willing to help you out, once you have an understanding of all the moving parts of real estate investing, once you have the proper financing and will be viewed favorably from banks and institutions, the only thing that you should be focused on is taking action and getting that first deal. And understand that you will make mistakes, you will lose money. You're going to want to mitigate that as much as you can. But there's this thing that was a very valuable lesson on my end, and it was called business tuition. That's what a mentor of mine at one point called it. And it's just like, hey, some people pay for college. Some people pay, to learn in the field. And when you learn in the field, it comes in the forms, and your payment is made in the forms of mistakes that you can now avoid, and just chalk that up to business tuition and keep on moving. I, watched an interview with a real estate investor here recently, and he revealed that he lost money on his first 8 deals. Now, I would say you can circumvent that by leaning in to other people, by learning from their experience, by learning from their mistakes, and educating yourself. I don't think you need to lose money on 8 deals. And you've got all the resources you need via the internet, via finding mentorships, finding real estate investing network meetings, and leveraging those relationships and all the information available to you to circumvent making a decent number of mistakes. And then lastly, the 7th thing is to constantly be reassessing and pivoting as necessary. So if you research all of the previous great businesses, you'll realize that they get very comfortable in their growth and doing one thing very well, and the market shifts and they refuse to pivot. And when they refuse to pivot, that's when the businesses start to die, right? I think the department stores that didn't, take to the World Wide Web whenever that thing came around, were all able to see that. While department stores were still where everyone got everything, hindsight being 2020, probably would have been pretty easy for them to pivot, get involved with the World Wide Web, try to, get better at delivering things. But they built this entire machine that was pointed in one direction, and they refused to pivot as the market started changing. And that gave way to some disruptors that started at $0. Amazon's a good example. And they took a lot of the market share and really made a lot of these department stores irrelevant. And adapting to the market as it shifts is extraordinarily easy for people like you and I that are very small time real estate investors to do, because we don't have, people to convince. We don't have PowerPoint presentations that need to be made. We don't have different divisions or departments that need to communicate together in order to authorize these types of changes. It's just hey, this isn't working like it used to. It's probably time for us to try something else, right? There was a time where we bought a tremendous amount of foreclosures. Well, now there's no more foreclosures. Good news is we had about 6 other ways to buy deals, right? That's just one example of the way that we have pivoted in the past, where we bought a bunch of high equity things that needed rehab, and they were abundant at one point, and then they dried up. So we pivoted and we found deals that were still high equity another way. So constantly reassessing, pivoting when necessary, that is the part that is going to allow you to weather any market, any condition, changing environments, all of that. And there you have it, the 7 steps to get started in real estate investing. So I think those things are helpful. I hope that little diatribe of about 20 minutes or so was a lot of good information that you can take and immediately start on, because all of these steps require $0. They are things that you could do today. They are things that you could start changing right now. You just need the willpower, the determination, make the commitment to yourself to start improving yourself financially, from a network point of view, from an educational point of view, and start taking action. And you've got it. You're going to do great. I'm pretty excited for you. Cameron Bennett, good morning. When do you think the market will be buyers friendly? Oh, well, I think it is right now. Maybe that's not the question I just answered. Let me tell you, I've been a little bit fired up over the past week, 2 weeks. I have put in more offers recently than I think I have all year. So, just to kind of frame this up appropriately, we have been buying a tremendous amount of properties all year. Tremendous to me. There are significantly bigger buyers out there where this is still small time. But, last year we ended the year with 200 properties. It was our goal to buy 200 properties this year. The lowest month that we've had was buying 13 properties. The highest month was about 27 or 29. I'm not sure right offhand, but somewhere in there. And, we're shooting for buying 17 properties per month. And here lately, we have put out so many offers, and all of them have been rejected. So these are really good offers. They're well written. They're in the favor of the sellers, but there are other people doing the exact same thing. So there was one property that came up for sale, and it was priced right. It needed some work, but ultimately it was priced exactly the way it should be. It wasn't, too high, too low. And we offered asking price. We offered no contingencies, no inspection. And we received notification later that day that said, hey, we received 7 offers, 6 of which were all cash. We're not going with your offer. So I don't know. The market's doing a really weird thing right now. Inventory is so low. I kind of think the market is in the middle. On one hand, if the property is not in good condition, there are a lot of deals out there that can still be had. Not by me this past week, but I also shouldn't say that and put too much of a chip on my shoulder because, we did put a couple of properties under contract this week and they're great deals. But also, it's really competitive out there from a buyer's perspective. However, the buyers are getting great high equity deals. So there's that. And then on the seller side, right now we're seeing a lot of price decreases on the higher end stuff. Now, my opinion on that, as I shared last week or the week before, is that the sellers are just asking too much for what their property actually is. And we're testing that out right now because right now we just put a property on the market that it's our first flip. So we didn't cut any corners. There is nothing wrong with this property that can be found. Everything that needs to be fixed, we fixed, and we went through it with a fine-tooth comb. So I'll test the theories of what I'm saying soon, and I'll happily report back to you. But from what I've seen, if a property is priced appropriately, then it will get sold very quickly for what the seller is asking. So I'm not so sure exactly how you define buyer's markets or seller's markets because right now I feel like it's advantageous for both. A little bit of a recency bias because so many of my offers got rejected, but I'm also just being a little bit of a poor sport, I suppose. Good morning, Elizabeth Sweet. I hope that you are doing very well this morning. I'm very pumped to see you on here. What's the best way to learn how to run a business and maintain it? Take a class first, reading books. I think you should take classes on how to run businesses. And then I also think you should always be reading books about business. We're going over a book right now as a business called Fans First. It's a book by Jesse Cole. He's the guy that owns the Savannah Bananas. And it's just talking about how he has built his entire culture at his business around putting the customer first. And, the product is baseball, but he is going above and beyond to make sure that the client, the customer, is entertained from start to finish. So it's pretty interesting. It's pretty fun. And I really think, running a business is one of those things that there reaches a point where you just have to do it. And the best way to learn how to do one is by constantly waking up and going to work inside your business and constantly figuring out where the bottlenecks are. What are you doing that's working? What are you doing that's not working? And then, how to fix that. So I have started several businesses. I have sold some of them. I have started some businesses that I would never start again. But each lesson I've learned has kind of built and allowed me to kind of streamline and grow the next business faster. So I think when people start a business, they think that they need to grow that one business that they started, never give up on that one business. But the fact of the matter is, the first business that you start probably isn't going to be your greatest or best business. Some people get lucky. Some people just have a massive passion and start a business around that. And that's what works. But if you're like me, that was just looking for a way to make money that wasn't tied to a W-2 job, that I had a little bit more control over, flexibility, freedom. The first company that my wife and I started was a candle company. So that's not what we're doing anymore. But I would say that I learned a significant amount of lessons from doing that. And we reassessed and pivoted as necessary. And we ended up selling that one. And it worked out well for us. But that's not what we're doing now. And there reaches a point where you can't take enough classes to best prepare you for everything. And even if you take, all the appropriate classes, you're still going to learn some lessons the hard way. You can read all the books and you're still going to learn, lessons the hard way. And being an actual practitioner, an actual entrepreneur, and an actual business owner. And, then each time you have an issue inside of your business, kind of comfort yourself, realize that it has nothing to do with your identity, realize that this doesn't say anything about you, realize that there's a lot of people that have made the same mistake that you just did, and learn and figure out a way to learn from them and figure out a way to teach others whenever you solve that. And keep it moving. Pivot, fix the problem, and keep on going. I think just in a moment of like honest self-reflection, I would say that I think one of the only things that kind of, if I stand out from anyone else, then I would say it's because of our tendency to take action at a certain point. We just reach a point and then we start taking an appropriate amount of action. Grant Cardone kind of calls it massive action, right? Say what you will about the man, but he takes a lot of action. And I hope to be similar in the sense that I take a lot of action. You could read all the books, you could take all the classes, but again, there are a significant number of people that are more well capitalized, that are more educated than I am, but the action at the end of the day is most important. Listen to Ryan. What great words from me, for my ego. Thank you, Elizabeth Sweet. Don't learn the hard, expensive way that I did. I have a very expensive real estate education. And you haven't quit. You are still buying properties. You are still fixing properties. You are still renting these properties out. So, the one story that always kind of gets me and makes me feel a little bit sad is that story where the guy bought all that gold digging equipment. This is way over paraphrased or whatever, but he bought all the gold digging equipment, dug for a really long time looking for gold, and never found any. So he gave up. He sold his gold digging equipment, and the next guy that bought it took that equipment, dug in the same places, and just got to the guy's like the end of his tunnel or whatever you call it, and the guy was just 3 feet away from all the gold that he had spent all that time, energy, and effort looking for. And I feel like a lot of people give up at that pivotal moment. Who knows if that story is true or not, but it wouldn't surprise me, as it seems like human nature is to give up when it gets a little bit, quote unquote, too tough, when that's probably the exact opposite time that you should give up. Good morning. English. What does private mean in business terms? So the title of this live stream, Private Lenders versus Banks. I'm really excited about this, and I think I can answer your question. So private lenders, English, what does private mean? Private means it's just not an institution. It's from an individual. So private lender for us, we've got some family members that are private lenders. We've got some friends that are private lenders. And it just means that they're not out there lending to the public. They are not an institution that is giving you a product. They are an individual that that you likely have a good relationship with, that has a lot of money in like a 401k, a retirement account, a savings account. And they do not want to put that money into the stock market or into any publicly traded company or any other kind of government-sponsored retirement vehicle or public offering, because they just don't trust it. Because at the end of the day, all these companies operate on trust, and whether or not your money is increases or decreases is based on the performance of that individual that you have no say in, that you can't come in and fix. A lot of people are still scarred from 2008, where they lost almost all of their money and there was no one there to be held accountable. Everybody just said, sorry, you knew the risks. You shouldn't have invested money that you couldn't afford to lose. And that's not the right way to respond. And when you are an individual that doesn't want to invest in that, you can become a private lender. And there are some alternatives to those types of investments where you can invest in business owners that you know, that you have a relationship with. You can invest in some real estate investors that are fixing homes in your local community where there is an asset as collateral, which is kind of how we structure a lot of our loans. Is when people lend us money, it's secured via a first position mortgage on that property. So if for whatever reason we have to default on a payment, then they have the right to foreclose on that property or to accept title to that property to kind of circumvent that foreclosure process in lieu of the debt. So that is inherently different than this, sorry, you knew the risks, you shouldn't have invested money you could afford to lose. Because it's saying, hey, if we don't perform the way that we said we would, then you get this house. And I think it's pretty cool because the formula that we use is purchase price plus rehab costs is is equal to or lesser than 75% of the after repair value. So if a property's after repair value is $100,000, then we're not going to borrow more than $75,000 against it. So our purchase price plus the rehab costs have to equal $75,000 or less. So in the event that, let's say, we borrow $75,000 and we're not able to make good on those payment terms, well, that private lender gets an asset that is actually worth $100,000, which is almost the exact opposite of what the traditional kind of stocks or investment vehicles that are offered do, where they just say, sorry, I did not mean to lose all of your money, but you knew the risks. I don't like that setup at all. So when it comes to being a private lender versus using banks, private lenders versus banks, it's not a either or, and I wouldn't even call it a versus. It's how can you make the most amount of use of both of them? How can you use them to really bring your business full circle? And I will share with you when we use private lenders and when we use banks. And our entire business model revolves around using private lenders to acquire and rehab properties. And I just shared the formula where purchase price plus rehab costs equals 75% or less of the after repair value. So already each property that we purchase, we want to have 25% equity in the property at the time of purchase. Now, what this does is it allows us to later, when the property is rented, when it's in great shape, when banks would love to be a part of it, we're able to take this property to a traditional bank, to a traditional lender. They're the ones that have the longest term and the cheapest capital. And we refinance with them. Most banks like to do 75% loan to value. So that allows us to just kind of swap out the bank's money with the private lender money. So we pay off that first position mortgage. We now have a first position mortgage with the bank, and it's amortized over 20 or 30 years at a lower rate than the private lender's funds. So now, because that private lender appreciates getting a higher percent interest, that 10, 12% interest mark, they want to deploy their money again. What does that give you the opportunity to do? Go out and deploy that $75,000 again. And then you can continue doing that. So you've got one asset that's performing, it's rented out, it's cash flowing, it's on a 20, 30-year low interest rate mortgage payment. It's, principal's getting paid off every month. Your equity's building. Your appreciation's going up. You're getting some tax benefits from all that interest you're paying. And then you're able to take all of the private lender capital that you used for that first deal and turn it over to a second deal. And, as far as private lenders go, I would differentiate between kind of private lenders and hard money lenders. I would say private lenders are people that that you have relationships with. It's kind of money that you have found yourself. Hard money, I would say, is the more institutional side of private lending, where you don't have relationships with the end users, or the end lenders. You are using somebody that has the relationships with all the private lenders, and they will likely charge you some origination points. I've heard as high as like 4 points to close a deal. So if you're borrowing 100 grand, they're going to charge you $4,000 just to get you the funds, and that could eat up a lot of your profit really quickly. So using hard money to take down a deal, if the numbers make sense and you're able to pay those fees, is definitely something that you should do, especially if you've got enough equity to replace the hard money lender funds with a traditional bank later on and not come out of pocket. I think that is still something that you should do. However, if you have the time, the energy, the effort, the desire to find your own private lenders through relationships, through educating, the friends and family members that you have that have retirement funds that they don't want to put into the stock market, coach them through finding alternative ways to lend out their money to people like yourself. Then you don't have points. You don't have fees that you need to pay. You just make those interest-only payments and you're good to go. Now, with private lenders, I will say generally it's a short-term kind of balloon payment. So 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever you and the private lender decide on is what you can ink into existence, truly. So if you have a 2-year balloon payment, the only concern that you have is not necessarily the cash flow during the 2 years of you having that private lender funds, but making sure that you have the ability to refinance inside of those 2 years before that balloon payment is due. So a lot of the deals explained videos that I did at first, I get a lot of comments saying this is a horrible deal. It doesn't cash flow, because sometimes, if a property is in an area that we like, if it is really high equity, but if the rent is low because it's, an inherited tenant, somebody that's lived there for 15, 20 years, there might be like a negative $50 per month cash flow. And people in the comments will say, hey, that's a horrible deal. Well, it isn't really, because the loan that is negative $50 per month is 2 years, and there is $30, $40, $50,000 of equity on that deal. And when you refinance into a lower interest rate that's not the 10 or 12% from a private lender, it's a 4, 6, 7, 8% now. The numbers get higher as the government does its thing. So, or the Federal Reserve, whatever. So when you replace that fund with like traditional finance, then that monthly payment changes, and you have the ability to start cash flowing just from making that refinance. And then you also have the ability to improve the property, to raise the rents on the property, and work on that actual asset in order to increase that cash flow. So one thing that I would say is never extend yourself from a private lender perspective to where you can't afford any loss that you might be taking. And I'm not advocating for people to, analyze these properties and take loss just to get their foot in the door on deals. Obviously, we shoot for, $50 to $100 per month in positive cash flow as we're analyzing these properties, even with private lending. However, sometimes it does make sense to have negative cash flow on a property as you're getting your foot in the door, and don't let that deter you from executing on that deal because you see the negative cash flow. If you have high equity and a short-term, 2-3 year plan of getting that transitioned over into long-term financing. So when it comes to private lenders versus banks, I would say analyze any deal that you're interested in utilizing both of those. Analyze, see how it performs on a 10 to 12% interest rate, have a game plan to 2-3 years from now, refinance into a traditional mortgage, and figure out how the property is going to perform then. And don't overlook the fact that you do, in fact, have the ability to raise rents to improve the property. So you're a business. And, I would say as markets change, you hear a lot of people say, well, hey, what if your note is called? That's one of the biggest things that I get as I'm explaining our business model. And like, hey, what happens if like this 2008 style thing happens and all of your notes get called? Well, you should take a look at your 20 to 30 year notes that you're doing. You should call the banks. You should look at the Fannie and Freddie 30-year mortgage terms and figure out who has the ability to call a 20 or 30-year mortgage. The 20 to 30-year mortgages, those are not the loans that are called given volatile marketing conditions. You've not heard that. Actually, one of the risks that these traditional banks take on when they're making these mortgage is, the interest risk. If interest rates decline after they make those loans, then or increase after they make the loans, then they're not making as much money as they could. That's something that they do. But these institutions have so many funds that they just need to lend them. Now, lines of credits, more short-term debt vehicles, private lenders, on 2-3 year balloon payments, those are the notes that get called. Those are the ones that react very quickly to market conditions. So as soon as you have a property on a 20 to 30-year mortgage, you should consider yourself to be home safe. So if you're going to utilize higher interest short-term debt in order to acquire and or rehab properties, then you should always be in a race to get these properties on long-term financing. And as soon as you achieve that, you should consider yourself to be home safe. All you need to do at that point is make sure that the asset stays rented out, that you continue to address deferred maintenance as it arises, and that you keep positive cash flow on that property. But as far as market volatility, as far as notes getting called, doesn't quite exist on a 20 to 30-year mortgage. That was fun. Hit that thumbs up. Thanks, Cool Rooster. Good morning, Ryan. Would you recommend transferring your properties into land trust deed after doing a cash out refinance? No, I would not. I think people spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to preserve anonymity, how to divide up assets and all that. And I think, what we've learned is that it just creates more problems than it's worth. So when we first started, we got some advice to not put more than 10 properties in any one LLC just to divide that up. However, when we were going to do large refinances, of 50, 60 properties at a time, then it created a serious amount of issues where they had to be on different notes, different mortgages. So even though we were only asking for one refinance or one loan on 50 to 60 properties, what actually needed to happen was that we do 5 or 6 loans with 10 properties each, which, that changes the fees by 5 to 6 times. So it got really expensive to keep that up. I would also say that if you have the proper insurance, then you'll also be very well protected. So rather than, in my opinion, rather than trying to divide things up, my preference would be to keep them in the same bucket and make sure that everything is insured appropriately. Make sure that you have all of your, personal financial structures in order, your trust, your LLCs, all of that. One of the things that we have spent a decent amount of time doing is making sure that we have as little friction and are viewed most favorably in the eyes of institutions. And sometimes people get a little carried away with different kinds of land trusts, different kinds of entities, and it just provides more friction and more kind of hesitation to these institutional lenders. And that is the exact opposite of what a small real estate investor should be doing. Now, that's my perspective from us trying to scale to a couple hundred homes with aspirations of, 10, 20xing from where we are. If you are in a position where you only want 5, 10, 15 properties, and your plan is to get 30-year mortgages on them and just allow those to get paid off over time and build wealth and pass things down to your kids, but not necessarily ever live off of or kind of ramp up into its own full-blown business. If you are happy having 20 properties or less, then it may make sense for anonymity's sake, um, and all that. Because, one of the things that I've heard people say that they don't want is for you to, type in their business name on the auditor site and all of your assets show up. In the event that you ever have an issue with an attorney or, any type of liability issue, some people fear that if someone were to do that, then it would kind of put a target on your back or raise their motivation for coming after you or something like that. So I could see how it would be advantageous to utilize land trusts. However, at a certain scale, it becomes an almost unmanageable thing, especially in the terms of refinancing large amounts of properties together. Cool. That's about all I've got. We've got 11 people on. We've been going at this for 1 hour. We've talked about private lenders versus banks. We've talked about 7 ways of getting started, or 7 steps of getting started into real estate investing. We've answered some questions about land trusts. We've answered some questions about other things too. So I'll stick around for a couple more minutes, see if you guys come up with anything, any kind of questions. I know there's a lot of you on here that listen every week, that hopefully take something out every week, but don't necessarily have new questions. I respect that. I appreciate you being here. It means the world to me. I really enjoy doing this. I know I tell you guys this all the time. We have this beautiful new fireplace. It is almost wrapped up. Soon, I will be getting a gas insert in there, and we'll have a nice, pretty little fire going in the background. As the weather's turning, I'm going to get a little cozy in this office. So I've got this ceiling fan set up. Don't let it fool you. It's on the winter mode. So in theory, it's circulating heat throughout here, not putting out any of that cool air. I know you guys are worried about me going into the winter with my ceiling fan on, but trust, I try to do it the right way. I got the one with that little switch. Let's see here. Business lessons that I've learned over this past week. I would say one of the things that I, always want to hit on is a lot of people, especially if you're looking at real estate as a means to financial freedom or leaving your job or things like that. I think that whole idea is a little bit skewed. And starting a business in order to leave your job is ultimately you just creating your own job, right? And the quickest way to throttle the growth or kill a business is by consuming all of its profit. So, benefiting as an owner and also, depriving the business from its proceeds are kind of in the opposite of one another. So, the more you take out of a business, the harder it is for that business to grow. So if you want your business to continue to grow, then you probably shouldn't take all that you have available to take out of it. In fact, you should probably keep the majority of it in. So, the first step of getting started in real estate is assessing your financial position, figuring out ways to increase your income and decrease your expenses. Same is true for business, whether you're the business owner or not. You should save 50% of your personal income, and you should keep 50% of the business's, profits or revenues inside the business to continue for it to grow. I think that's a safe spot to do. And obviously, if you can do more, do it. So then that changes the conversation of now, if you're kind of shooting for financial freedom and you are saying, hey, I need $3,000 a month. So these properties, my analysis reveals a $300 per month cash flow, then you need to at least aim for 20 of those, not 10 of those, in order to get yourself towards financial freedom. Just shooting from the hip here, but I think that's a good idea. Hey, Bumblebee. Yes, that baby did arrive on September 30th. So we are super blessed to have a very healthy fifth kid. So now we've got 3 girls and 2 boys. I like them. We have ordered a 14-passenger van. We cannot fit 5 baby seats in our Honda Odyssey, which is a little bit sad. So now we can't all go one place as a family. Didn't do the appropriate amount of research before we started having all these kids. Hindsight 2020 would have bought a van from the get-go and slowly filled that thing up rather than making a pit stop by an Odyssey. But also, it's an unusual problem. You know, our oldest kid, he is 5, my oldest son. You've seen him in some of the videos, Jackson. And most people don't have 5 kids under 5. And most people don't need all of their children to be in a car seat at one time. So, hey, we're getting after it. You know, we're growing our kids like our rental portfolio. In fact, I would say there's a lot of similarities, and in a lot of ways, they're a little bit parallel. I would not be interested in having well, I shouldn't say things like that. Kids are like rentals in that the more you have of them, the easier things are. Thanks. You're a busy dad. Yes. Congrats. Thank you. I appreciate it. I have a lot of fun. Let me see if there's anything else. Anything else I can go over? The mastermind group, seek-wisdom.com/join. We've got one new fellow starting on Monday. If that's of any interest to you, check that out. Check out the video on the YouTube channel. You should just type in Seek Wisdom Mastermind. It should pop up, and watch that video. It's 25-30 minutes, and that kind of outlines exactly. Ooh, that's loud. That outlines exactly kind of what my desires for the group are. It's a lot of fun, a lot of really good advice, and a lot of wisdom to be shared in that group. Not just from me, but there are some other very successful individuals in that group that can weigh in on just about any issue that you're having. There's a business coach in there, a couple of people with 100+ units, and a lot of people that have $1 million plus net worth. So it's good fun, sharpening each other, making sure that we're making good decisions, thinking through our decisions, and really getting after it. The Ingram rental calculator, if you are on the go and need to analyze a property, then this is the app for you. It doesn't collect any of your information. It is just a tool to be very helpful. And of course, PropStream. I use this thing every day. I think it's very effective. This is a link to a 7-day free trial. It's also pinned in the comments section. I think you should click that. And I think you should get a 7-day free trial to PropStream. Very quickly, you're going to be able to go through a list of pre-foreclosures in your area that may or may not be good deals, but you get to analyze them. They also, the thing that I use them most for is running my own comp reports. So it very clearly allows you to look at properties that are recently sold and what they sold for. It also links to photos of the properties so you can compare them, figure out how similar they are very quickly. And it'll also print out a comp report that is very professional, looks very good. And especially if you're trying to build your private lender network, they like seeing these things if they're on the fence of whether or not they want to help you out with your deal. Yeah, same here. Hey, you already know your problem. You already assessed it. So if I were you, and I do this every now and then as well, is there are some days where I feel like I haven't gotten nearly as many deals put my way as I should have, and I'll go through my phone and every single person that I know in the area, whether they're a realtor, a wholesaler, another investor, I'll just go through and text them and ask them if they have any good deals around. Going out purposefully finding real estate, going to more local real estate investor network meetings, constantly putting yourself out there. That's the way to get it done. Look into some marketing, but at the end of the day, all of this is a numbers game. If you have the ability to check out 100 properties, at least one of them will be a good deal. So rather than looking for that one deal, I would try to make sure that you have at least like 7 streams of deal flow, is what I like to call it. I did a video about it. You should check that out as well. And make sure that you constantly have deals coming your way. So the fact that you've already assessed yourself and figure out that you're lacking the connections, well, hey, that's a very easy fix. You can do that really, really well. And like I shared, truly it's a numbers game. And I have spent at this point probably about an hour this week on the phone, which is more than I'd like to admit, just kind of complaining to the main realtor that I use, saying, hey, we've put out so many offers. They've all been rejected. I can't believe it. I'm being a little bit dramatic. I think we put like 3 properties under contract this week, but I've never had this many offers rejected. It's pretty crazy. It's a pretty strange thing because these are really strong offers. So it's also interesting to me because it is contrary to what the overall narrative is about, real estate prices coming down and real estate cooling off. If you've got stacked offers from investors that are cash with no inspection, that's, I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but that doesn't sound like any kind of cool down to me. I'm just a guy though. Good morning. Truly appreciate you sharing your knowledge. Congrats on the baby. Thank you. I appreciate you, Dale. That's a good name. I have a lot of fun doing this. And like I've said before, I plan on in perpetuity, probably always keeping myself available Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard to really answer any kind of questions and also kind of share the wins, the trials, the tribulations of the past week. So, in my head, I think it would be pretty cool for in the unfortunate circumstance of a premature death, if my kids, reach age and say, well, I want to know about X, then if I do this live stream, if I hash out all the issues that I'm having and report back to the, ways that we were able to fix it, the ways that we've pivoted, what we're trying next, I think it'd be pretty cool. So one of the ways that I'm trying to utilize these live streams, just a little time capsule type deal, which is a lot of fun. Also, it's just really hard to keep up. I mean, all of this is happening so fast that, the problems I was having 2 years ago are not the problems I'm having today. And I imagine that's going to be the same as portrayed in the future as well. Thank you. All right. We got 9 people on. Been doing this for about an hour. I think we're doing pretty good. I think we covered a lot of ground today. The meeting with the attorney that I had yesterday, we are trying to start a fund. So I am looking forward to learning about that. I am trying to figure out how to do it, why I should do it, and figuring out in what ways it would either help streamline our business model with all the private lenders. Perhaps it is more effective to funnel all of our existing private lenders into a fund if they so choose. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but we're going through the framework. I'm trying to learn on it, trying to figure out the pros and cons. And we have set an arbitrary date of by the end of the first quarter of next year, we would like to either have done it or have determined it was a bad idea and have, abandoned it. So that'll be interesting. Thank you for the share. Have a blessed day. You as well. And with that, I think I'm going to head on over to the title company and sign the documents for the one property that we are closing today. And for the record, we closed the property on Tuesday. So technically, we have closed 2 properties this week. But we came very close to not having any properties to close on, which would have been the first Friday all year that we didn't close on a property. So would have been fascinating. Would have been a little crazy. Alrighty. Well, hey, next Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be right here. In the event that you're going into the weekend and you have some additional time on your hands, you should check out a book by Howard Marks called The Most Important Thing. I think that is a really important book. I think it provides a lot of clarity and a lot of insight on how to adapt, shifting with markets, and the appropriate way to look at investments despite market volatility. I've learned a lot. So highly recommend. Other than that, hey, we're doing a lot more shorts. We're putting out a couple of shorts per day, and we're trying to push more traffic towards some of the older videos. Because at this point, we've been doing the channel for about 2 years now. And I've got a lot of videos that I did a couple years ago that I think are fantastic. Like I've got one video called Never Run Out of Money Again. And that is one of the videos I'm most proud of. So I'm trying to get some additional traffic to those videos. They're still relevant. Yes, they were recorded a couple of years ago, but they're still really helpful. Still some of the most fun videos I've gotten. I think for someone just starting out, there's tons of information already in these older videos that I've done that should kind of be unearthed. So feel free to like those shorts, share those shorts. If you find them helpful. Don't do it if you don't find them helpful. So that's all I've got. Alrighty. Well, hey, I will see you all next week, Friday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard. Goodbye, Bumblebee.